Hi mamas, it's Jillian from Truly Mama, and I am joined this evening by my girlfriend Ryene Fenner. Ryene and I met in an online mommy group when we were both pregnant with our beautiful baby boys, and I think that we were actually due on the same day, weren't we, Ryene? I think
We were. I'm pretty sure we were both due on the same day.
Yeah, so our boys are very, very close in age. Ryene has been a wonderful support for me throughout my pregnancy and the first year of motherhood. And with everything going on in the world right now, Ryene and I wanted to sit down, get real, have a chat about what's going on, and give some advice back to the mommy groups and the communities and the friends that we've made online about what they can do to help to be good allies in this cause, as well as providing them with a safe place to land, because a lot of people just don't know what to do right now. So we have sourced questions directly from them, and we're going to sit down and discuss those questions and hopefully come up with some good advice for you on how you can help be a part of this change. If you find today's video useful, be sure to leave us a thumbs up and leave us a comment down below. Let us know what kind of things are on your mind right now, and if you have any questions for Ryene and I. So the first thing I want to ask you, Ryene, is just how are you feeling right now?
I'm overwhelmed and I'm hopeful. It's a strange dichotomy right now to feel sad and happy simultaneously, because I see so many people fighting for change and it makes me happy. But then I also am sad because I feel like we've done this before, right? We've had a civil rights movement before. My parents are almost in their 60s. My grandparents are in their 70s, and we're reliving their youth all over again. And so while I'm hopeful that maybe this will be the last time, I can't be sure, because I'm sure they also thought it was the last time. And just being a mom of a Black boy, you know, he's cute now, but it just scares me to think of when he's going to go from cute to weapon, and then he's going to start being viewed differently. So it's just, I'm in a strange space.
I can totally sympathize with how you're feeling. And it's strange for me because I'm definitely coming from a place of white privilege with a Black husband in my home and a son who's biracial, that, as we know, in the white community, if anybody has any kind of color in them, they view them as Black. So experiencing firsthand exactly what you just described, and it's definitely rocked me to my core and made me realize how unaware I was before. And I think in knowing that I know that a lot of other people are too. I know when we were sourcing these questions, we were really hoping that people would feel safe in being able to be honest about what those questions are, because I think for a lot of folks all around the board, regardless of your color, the conversations can be a little awkward.
Right.
I think it's a really beautiful thing that you and I are able to have a shared experience in both having Black sons, but having different perspectives as a white mother versus a Black mother, and try and tackle these issues together, because honestly, I feel like within my heart of hearts, I feel it right to the core of myself, this is not up to Black people to fix. It's up to all of us to fix. And we all have to play a part in finding the solution and the way forward to really make sure that the world is a better place for all of us, and especially our little boys moving forward. Do you want to dive into some of these questions?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so the first question that we have here, how do I go about teaching my two girls how to be allies, especially when I'm not around?
I feel like this is something my mom used to say to me as a kid, you know, make sure you're doing the right thing even when I can't see you. It starts at home. You have to teach them that you are doing the right thing for yourself. And I think sometimes when we are doing the right thing, we're always doing it for somebody else's gratification. We want somebody else to validate what it is that we've done. And so we do things to the eye of someone else, and then when we're in private, we don't want to continue doing those same things, if that makes sense. And so I think it's teaching them that self-gratification or self-purpose and self-worth all ties into doing the right thing when she's not around. And in terms of being an ally, I think the first step is to identify your privilege. That's the first thing, to identify that you know you are more privileged than your friends or family members that are people of color. I think the second step would be to give them reading materials. You know, some people think that there may not be materials that are by Black authors, and it doesn't have to be research-based. Just having children's books that have characters of color or are written by people of color is also a huge step to me, because then you're showing them that representation is everywhere. It starts within your home and what they are exposed to. Exposure is a very big key into teaching them how to be an ally and use their privilege appropriately.
That was a really, really great answer. I love that. That's so
Yeah.
powerful. Yeah, I love that. I really do. Bleeding into a lot of what you just said, the next question that we have here is somebody is looking for kids' books written by people of color. Do you have any favorite books for Ace?
I actually read to him A's for Activism tonight.
Oh,
So
that's so cute. I love that.
for our baby shower, we asked that people bring books instead of a card.
Oh, nice.
Friends from every background. And so I was very impressed by the amount of books by Black authors with Black characters that he got. So a lot of Ace's bookshelf is full of kids and characters that look just like him. So I can't really pick a favorite, and I should have compiled a stack to show you. But tonight he read A's for Activism, which is a great book.
If you can, send me your list of faves after, and we'll put it in the description box so people can check those out.
Definitely will, and that just goes to show you that we can start when they're young. He's 11 months old, and A's for Activism is the ABCs of equality and justice, and it has feminism in it, and LGBTQ in it. So it's a great book, and you're starting them when they're small, so there really is no excuse not to give them that exposure.
This is a really interesting question. Growing up, I always felt guilty and still do for my white privilege, especially being immersed in a high school where racism was seen every day. How can I teach my daughters not to feel that guilty, but to be proud of where they come from while having compassion for others? That is a very loaded question, and it's a good question. But I think maybe rather than feeling guilty about your white privilege, maybe refocus on how to use that privilege to help so it becomes a good thing.
I definitely agree with that. I think I agree with you. It's not that you want them to feel bad about being white, because that doesn't help the problem. I think that's going to further perpetuate what's happening, because then you build up this resentment because you feel like people resent you for being white. But I think the first step, and we said this before in an earlier question, is to first acknowledge where your privilege comes from.
Yes.
So know that you hold this privilege. I feel like that's key to a lot of things. And then if you see racism happening, you speak up about it. Don't let it continue in the classroom. And it's hard to think that you might have to equip your 13 or 14-year-old entering high school, like teaching them how to do that. But I think it's necessary. I think it's also your job to go read up on Black history. I think it's your job to really learn about what Black people have gone through, and not from the textbooks, because those are not accurate depictions of Black life. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. She facilitated a conversation, and one of the speakers said that people in Africa are so blessed because they don't learn a history of being slaves. So they don't have that embedded in their mind. Whereas American students, both Black and white, the first thing you learn is about the Underground Railroad. I remember learning about the Underground Railroad in 5th grade. So the first real nugget of information that I got about being Black was about being enslaved. And so that narrative is further perpetuated as you move through school. And so he was just saying how lucky and blessed the kids in Africa are to not have that be their first depiction of who they're supposed to be. And that's why when they come to America or they visit America, they stand in their truth and their mannerisms and their behaviors, because they don't have this idea that they have to be subjected to what white society is in America. And, he made a great point, and I was like, wow, what an amazing thing. And so I'm making it a point now for Ace to have those positive experiences home before he gets to a school. And then he's like, Mom, the first thing I learned was that my great whomever used to be a slave. I don't want that to be the first nugget of information he gets.
I feel like I've just been hit with a ton of bricks, because I've never considered that before. I've never considered that for a Black child in a school system, the first experience that they have in learning about really themselves and their history is a negative experience.
And it's not something, I've been so used to the American way of learning now. And even though I want to teach and there's things I want to change, I've been so used to learning the way society sees fit from these textbooks, where Black history is a blip, and a 1,000-page textbook is probably 30 pages at most. And we just have accepted that. And we go to school and we send our kids to school. They come home with their homework. We help them complete it. And we don't ever challenge or question. And so I wondered to myself, even though my mom always taught me to love myself and she always taught us about Black history at home, I wonder what would have happened if she would have said, you know what else are you teaching these kids about themselves? What are you teaching their white peers about themselves? Because then not only am I learning about slavery as my first nugget of information as a 10-year-old fifth grader, my white friends are also learning about slaves. So that's their first encounter with black people in history too, is them as slaves.
I've had my eyes open in so many ways this week, and it's just like, is I know you never have it all figured out, but it's like as soon as you're like, okay, like I get it, like, like I'm woke now, like I get it. And then you hear something else like that, and you're just like, there's just so much that has to be done. I'm gonna cry. So our next question. I live in a very rural area with little diversity. An honest worry of mine is when my son sees someone with a different color of skin, he will point and make a big deal. I don't know if it will happen or not. I just fear it. And if that does happen, what's the best way to deal with it? For the person that notices it and as a lesson for my toddler. And that was a very similar question that I received from another parent. Her daughter is 5, and they try really hard to teach her about diversity and shed a positive light on people of color. And whenever her daughter sees somebody out in public, she gets very excited that they are seeing somebody of color, because they talk about that in the home so much that she always points it out and is very vocal. So what are your thoughts on that?
So I've had it happen to me both ways. This is the part of being black. I experience these things on a regular basis. So I have had a situation where I've seen a small white child that has been scared of me and one that has embraced me and does not know me from a hole in the wall. And I think in terms of trying to handle that or knowing how to handle that, it starts at home. And I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but if you live in an area where you know that you're not going to often see people of color, but then you might go on vacation one day and be surrounded by them, it's your job to educate them in the best way you can with the tools that you have. And so if there's a library, take out a book. If your book is equally representative of your town and there are no black authors, there are interlibrary loans. Libraries will ship books to other libraries for you to take out. There are ebooks. There's YouTube.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
The plethora of answers. You want to build something? YouTube. You want to learn about someone? YouTube. And so you YouTube positive black figures and the representation you want them to see. That's all up to you. If you show them videos of black men in the media perpetuating all the stereotypes that are placed against them, then that's going to be their representation of them. But if you show them strong black mothers, fathers, uncles, friends, small kids playing with the same toys as your kids, doing the same activities as your kids, then you're perpetuating a positive image for them. And so that starts at home. And if you don't have that, you reach out to people. Reach out to me. I mean, I'll mail somebody a book in a heartbeat. That means you're going to give them the proper exposure and the positive exposure. And so I think that's really what it is. There's so many resources now, there's no excuse. And honestly, I'm not going to speak for all people of color, but I can speak for the people that I'm around as far as my friends. If there is a small white child and they come up to us, it's never a weird interaction like, oh my God, your kid's so excited to see a black person. I would rather that than to have your 5-year-old call me the N-word because that's all they hear you say.
Right.
I'd much rather her want to see me and be like, oh my God, you're so pretty. I mean, thanks, little girl I don't know. That's what I think. I don't ever think, thanks, little white girl I don't know.
Right.
But I have a small child, boy or girl, that's calling me out of my names or is negatively pointing out the fact that I'm black. I'm like, at the parents who are not correcting them, so they just stand idle, like that little smirk, that like uncomfortable smile, and it's like, I need more than that. Correct your child. No, we don't do that. Or you don't point out somebody's skin tone. You don't laugh at the fact that her skin tone is darker than yours. But I've never had that happen. I've had parents like ignore the fact that it is happening, or just come on, let's go. And that was a teachable moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bring your child over if you wanted and say, hey, like, this is my daughter, whoever. She wants to say hi. And then it's just, that in itself is a teachable moment. Because I can say hi back and cause her no harm, and then she's no longer scared of me.
Right, absolutely.
You didn't do that. You pulled her away instead. And now when she sees another black woman in another store, she's going to be fearful because you didn't use that first opportunity to break that fear.
That is really great advice, and I think that's going to help a lot of moms. And I can understand how it would feel awkward for them, but I think the one thing that I've been encouraging for everybody this week is like, get comfortable with being uncomfortable if you want things to change. Like it's okay. It's okay to feel uncomfortable. I love this conversation so much. It's so wonderful. Here is another really good question. I love that these conversations are happening, awkward as they may be, is how this person starts this. Here are my 2 questions. First question, how can I be an ally without seeming to come in with a white savior complex?
Don't enter into a situation like, hey, I'm about to save you from other white people. You need to enter into the conversation, enter into the space with a, hey, I'm here to help you.
Yes.
What can I do to help you? And I don't mean looking for a Black person or a person of color to give you the exact answers, but, oh, are you going to this protest? Let me join you in this. What organizations can I donate to? What petitions can I sign? Without saying, you're just going to jump into the situation, I'm going to save you, and all is going to go away because I'm using my voice. That can't be it. The solution is not to just have white people with privilege come in and think that they're using their privilege is going to end this. It is using their privilege to let other people realize that Black people and people of color also have a platform that is equivalent to theirs.
Yes.
And I think that is a huge aspect of being an ally. You have to know that the end game, the goal here is to make Black people be on the same playing field. It's not for you to come in and save them every time something goes wrong. Like, you're not our mom. You know what I mean? The way we want to go save our sons, I don't want you to come in and save us every time. Right. I want you to help me get to a point that when I use my voice, I don't need you anymore.
Right.
I think that's what it is. Help me get to a point where when I go to speak up, I don't have to call on Jillian to say what I've been saying for you to hear me. Mm-hmm. I think that is the step to being an ally, knowing that you're not coming in to rectify a situation and then walk away from it and come back when you're needed. It's to help rectify it so that you're not needed. And not in a negative way, but it's almost like when we raise our children, we're raising our kids to go on and be adults so they don't have to constantly call on us. We're there if needed, but we want them to be self-sufficient. And I think that is what we're trying to get to. We want Black people to be able to speak up for themselves without needing backup.
Yep. Second part of this question, how can I approach new friendships, especially for my kids, without seeming disingenuous or self-serving? My husband and I are very lucky to have a fairly diverse group of friends, but most of them don't have children, and the ones that do live in other states or provinces. So my kids have not yet been able to form friendships with people of color of their own ages.
Please don't go out and just look for a person of color or a Black person and be like, I need a friend.
Yeah.
Because it looks like you're looking for that one token Black friend, which is another topic, but it drops me up a wall when people go, well, I have a Black friend.
So
it's
what?
Like, okay, I usually wear a pink lip gloss, but I have a red one for this occasion. It's like, let me pull out my Black friend for this specific occasion and everything will be okay. Nobody will think anything because I have this one Black friend that's just on the shelf and I'm going to pull them off when needed. Do not look for a token Black friend. When you are looking for friends, you would form a friendship anyway you normally would. It's not like forming a friendship with a Black person is any different.
No.
There's not different rules to being my friend. For me personally, my only thing is acknowledge that you know that when we walk out of this front door, you are more privileged than me.
100%.
Don't talk about it every time we're out. Just be aware. Be aware of the space that you're in. Be aware of the conversation that you're partaking in. And then also think about if you're invited to that space. Just because you're looking for a Black friend or you have a Black friend doesn't mean you have the right to enter into a space. Be socially aware of what you're entering yourself into, because you could be entering somebody's safe zone and not doing it with malintent, but because you're privileged, you don't always realize that.
Right. Okay, so our next question, and I think we've covered this one a little bit, but as a teacher, what content can and should I be including in my classroom? As you said, we do a unit on Martin Luther King Jr. and celebrate Black History Month, but I know that I should be doing more throughout the year, not just during those isolated times.
Girl, let me speak to your soul. I just had this conversation the other night. So I don't know what content area you're teaching in, what grade level, but I feel like this is applicable to every grade level, K through 12. You have to know that Black History Month is not a month. I don't know why that's a thing. I've said the same thing about Women's History Month. Women are alive 365, so are Black people. It is the weirdest thing to me that there are months dedicated to minority groups, but there's never like a White History Month because we're living in white history. We are living in white society. And so I think when you limit things to Martin Luther King Jr., and no shade to the person that asked this question because it's what we're taught to teach.
Right.
But I think you need to have bulletin boards up around the school, if not in the school, in your classroom all year long, and not just from Martin Luther King and Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth. Find Black figures that are positive and have quotes about them up all year long. Encourage your school when they do quotes of the day or poems of the day to not just use straight white male figures. Find the Audre Lordes and the Maya Angelou's and write about them and have them up. Have them in your classrooms for silent, sustained reading. Even in math classrooms and science. Look, what was the movie Hidden Figures?
Yeah.
And I don't want to butcher their names, and I'm a little ashamed because I don't remember everybody's name right now. But you can have content across different disciplines.
Yes.
So I think it's just knowing that you need to have this material included all year long and find ways to keep it up all year long. Don't be that classroom that's like Black History Month and then your Black students watch you take down the Black History Month information and pictures on March 1st. Because that's weird to me, and it always has been. That's something that's always been strange to me. So it's like, y'all know I'm still Black on the 1st of March, right? Did you think I magically changed colors because it's no longer February 28th? You need to have this content up all year long. If you're aware of it, you have to know that your students are too, especially your Black students, because this is their everyday life. I know things have been done differently in the past, and you might have seen Black History Month things go down. You might only see that certain classrooms celebrate for a month. We're celebrating all year long because you're great all year long, and your friends of color are great all year long, and your teachers of color are great all year long, not just 28 days. I mean, you word it however you see fit, but I would address the fact that we are going to celebrate Black lives all year long. And then you roll it into other aspects, women's lives all year long. You know, you want that respect to be acknowledged as soon as they step foot into your classroom, and you don't ever want to break that.
I could listen to you speak forever. Like, you are so well spoken and just so passionate and so brilliant, and your voice needs to be heard by a lot of people.
It was good. This was great. The questions were good. The dialogue was good. I thank you so much for asking me to do this with you.
Oh my God, absolutely. It was a total pleasure. And like, I genuinely could not have done it without you. Like I said, I really feel passionately about this kind of stuff. I want to build a better future for my son. I want to be able to build a better future for my husband. Like, it just makes me so devastated what's happening right now. And I know that I have to help. But I know that I don't have the answers, and I can't do it on my own. So it's so important to reach out to our friends and our family members and just dig deep to try and have tough conversations and make a change. And I know, like, I've had a lot of tough conversations in my own family this week, with family members that hold pretty problematic views, unfortunately, and they are hard conversations to have, but they're totally necessary. And I think, exactly like you said, it's not a Black versus white. It's a wrong versus right, and there's only really one side you can be on this.
There's only one side. There is no in between. There's like no ambiguity. It's one side. Pick a side. And honestly, I don't want to say stay there because you want people that are on the wrong side of it to change their mindset, but you also know that there are some people that are never going to change the way they think.
Yeah.
And I'm not asking for everybody to like me. I'm not asking for everybody to like my son, or my partner, or your son, or your partner. I'm just asking them to be respected. You don't have to like me, but you should have to respect me. So when I leave the house, you can dislike me all you want, but that shouldn't give you the right to kill me. And that's a disrespect. That's not a dislike. That is a true hate and disrespect. And I think people also need to know the difference between that. Like, I dislike milk. I'm not going to go smack a glass of milk out of Aaron's hand if he's drinking it with his Oreos. That's disrespectful.
Right.
And I think it's just for the adults, the fact that we have to dumb it down. Because there's no other way to explain it. The fact that we have to dumb it down, or that Sesame Street needed to be on CNN. If people don't think that that's a problem, I saw a short clip of it on social media, but the fact that we have to use what we give to our kids for grown adults to understand what it is that we're trying to say,
I know.
yeah, I have no words.
I know.
It's crazy.
The last question I want to ask you, and how I think we should close for this. What are your hopes and dreams for Ace?
Oh man, my hopes are for him to know that he's always loved, he's always valued. My dreams for him, I want him to surpass everything his dad and I have done. And I know that's like every parent's dream, but I hope that one day he sees this. I'm getting super emotional because he's also almost turning 1. But I hope he sees all the things that I'm doing and he knows that I'm doing it for him. My hope for him is to be able to freely walk around the street in whatever attire that he wants to wear and come home. And as a parent, it's like maybe my hopes and dreams for him should be I want him to go to college, but I want him to live past a certain age. I want him to live to see old age. Like, I want him to live to be a grandfather. I don't want him to be a rest in peace t-shirt or a sign placard on a street. I want him to grow up and take the reins of what I'm doing for him now and continue on. I don't want him to be another unloving memory of. Sad, Ace's middle name is Legend, and that's literally what I want for him, to be legendary in everything that he does and be able to live. I don't want him to be a legend in which it's like his life was cut short and now he's this great man. I want him to live his life out until God calls him home. Not because somebody else decided that they wanted to take his life or that they were in a position of power that allowed them to think they could play God. And those are my hopes for him and my dreams for him. To live a happy life, being friends with whomever he wants, having a family with whomever he wants, and not having to look over his shoulder or wonder if he should have a black hoodie in his wardrobe. And those are the things that race through my mind on a daily basis. Is he going to live in a world where he is seen as a person and not an animal?
I can't express to you how absolutely heavy my heart is in hearing you say all of those things. And those are things that I have only just started to have to think about for the first time in my life. Having a son that is biracial, but that the world will view as black, and understanding that these are things that I never had to grow up thinking. I was completely blissfully unaware of them. I do have hope that through having honest conversations and through making sure that these conversations continue once this news makes its way out of the news cycle, as it will, that real change happens this time. Well, so much love to you and Ace, and thank you so much for taking the time.
For having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're absolutely wonderful, and I value you and your thoughts and your heart so much, and I'm so grateful that we connected on the internet as mom friends and online mom communities. The power of moms helping moms and having these conversations, it's pretty amazing, and I believe that mothers can change the world. Thank you. And we're going to catch up again real soon. So if you have a question for Ryan or I, if our conversation has sparked a thought for you, if you're getting curious about maybe some of the own opinions and biases that you may have realized that you hold within your heart, let us know, because as we just said, we truly believe that mothers have the power to change the world. And when we heard George Floyd cry out for his mama, I agree with you, Ryan, that I think it's awoken something in mothers around the world to recognize that we have to hold each other and listen to each other and learn from each other and our different perspectives and racial backgrounds and biases. And it's up to us to change things together. So until next time, we'll talk to you soon.